how to start a blog or where to set a blog up or, you know, set it up. How to start a blog. All right. A blog is essentially a website. It's a type of website. It could be a straight blogging website where there's no other information, no other website pages. So to have a blog, essentially you need a website. So what blogging surface or platform should you use that is good / easy to manage? It's a good question. It's a big one. I'll try and keep it not so big. Okay. I shared in my story that I started with a Weebly website, a Weebly, W-E-E-B-L-Y, which is similar to a Wix website. There's also people that use like a Blogger website or a Tumblr website. They're the most common, I suppose, they're names that are most commonly used or heard of. Those platforms are generally free. So for example, my website was angelfoods.weebly.com. I think that was my very first website, and it was for the first year. Because I went on Weebly, because I chose the free option, being they host it, and I don't even know the rest of the terminology. That meant they got to put the, you know, .weebly in the URL, in the domain name or website name. And I don't regret that decision, to be honest. But to get good website traffic and to get Google ranking, being, you know, search engine optimization, that can't be done on a free platform. Full stop. I apologize. I'm kicking the table around and that's why it's jumping. I'll try and stop doing that. You can't do that on a free platform. So while, you know, the major benefit is it's free, yay to free. Essentially, when you want to start building your website traffic, you're going to have to upgrade to a WordPress. WordPress, I talk about a lot because that's what I use myself. That's what I recommend. Of all the websites in the world that aren't on a free platform, over 90% are WordPress. The other 10%, a lot of them are Squarespace. So Squarespace, I believe, are just as good as WordPress, but I have no experience in them, just to let you know that. So WordPress is a platform. It is actually free to have WordPress. It's wordpress.org, WORDPRESS.org. Once you have WordPress, there's actually a couple of other things you need to do. You need to buy a domain name, which is your URL or website name. So that's one of the costs that are involved, but then you own that name, okay? So that gives you ownership of the website and ownership of the content. That's really important. The other platforms that are free, you don't have ownership of the URL, the website name, nor do you have ownership of the content. So I bought my domain names from, I have a couple of domain names. GoDaddy is one, and then also HostGator I've heard really good things about, and also Australian Domains. And Crazy Domains, I have two. So all these links you can actually find on my website. There's a website page called Start a Blog. So there's all the links in there, everything that I'm recommending. Right, so you have WordPress, you have a domain, then you need to host it. I'm not even going to explain how they're all interconnected. That's what you have to do. I don't understand myself. So you need to host your website, and I recommend Bluehost. I use them myself. And again, you can get that link on my website, angelfoods.net/startafoodblog. So the question of, you know, which blogging surface or platform to use and which one's good and which one's an easy one to manage, I suppose, like I said, it's not an easy question. So while you can start on those free platforms, Weebly, Wix, Tumblr, Blogger, and they're brilliant because they're free, at some stage, yes, you will need to upgrade to WordPress. You can choose that in the beginning, or you can just do it later. It's not overly difficult. It's doable. Essentially, everything's figure-outable. It's not a complete nightmare. Why I don't regret starting on Weebly, because I was essentially finding my blogging legs. I was figuring out, you know, what I'm selling. I was practicing taking my photos. I was building up my portfolio on gallery. I was figuring out who my target market is. My business was changing really quite quickly. And then I was also practicing my blogging. So unless you're a seasoned blogger, if you've never like written a blog post or written, you know, less than 24 blog posts, you're still practicing blogging. So practicing writing the content, practicing publishing, practicing taking photos. And for the most part, for me, it was just practicing like being consistent, because I was very, very inconsistent. I was blogging maybe once every 2 months until I, by the third website, nailed in my blogging strategy and scheduled it in that I was blogging weekly. It doesn't have to be that often, but I would suggest, you know, fortnightly, aim for fortnightly. If you're blogging less than that, I'm going to say a free platform's fine, meaning that, you know, you're not going to get up in Google ranking by blogging less than that. And certainly inconsistently, and certainly if you're not keyword rich. But if you're aiming on getting up in Google ranking at some point, I feel like I've answered that question as best I can in this amount of time.